Welcome to this week's addition to DIY tutorials. So now to add to our project, we're going to be using SwiftUI to add gradients and changing the initial view of our app. So let's have a look at it. So welcome back to our fourth video in the DIY series. I really do hope that the others have been all right. If you haven't seen them or don't know about them, I've linked them in the description, or you'll see them through the channel. That's all part of a DIY tutorial playlist. So yeah, please check it out. I really do hope that it'll be useful for you, or interesting at the very least. In this video, in the fourth one, we're going to carry on with the app that we did in the other three. This one, we're going to cover a few sort of small, simple projects. It'll be maybe a bit of a shorter video, this one maybe. We'll present all of the timestamps down below, because if you're not following the project, you just want to find out one bit of information, it'll be there just to reach to for you. So we're going to cover renaming the name of a view, so presenting that everywhere in the app. We're also going to change which view presents initially when you open the app. So that'll be another thing. We're also going to cover Zstacks, because we did stacks before, but I didn't actually use the Zstacks. So we'll look at that briefly as well. And then we're going to look at linear gradients. So how to use those. There's two different types that we'll cover, because the third type exists, but is not really relevant, really, or I don't think it is. Let's just quickly sum up what a DIY tutorial is. If this is the first video you've seen. Basically, when you're learning to code, you use tutorials to guide yourself along. And you're led through how to make an app. In real life, it does not work like that. Basically, you have your project, whether yours or a client's or whatever, and you get to a feature which you need to implement. Well, you don't know how to do it, you don't remember quite how to do it, so you look online, you find a tutorial. They're never teaching you how to make your app, they're teaching you how to make the feature in part of their tutorial, whatever they're doing. Then you have to apply that to your app, okay? This is trying to help you to build that gap between tutorial-led and your own independent coding. But what I'm going to do is basically show you how to build each individual element of this. So a Z-stack, I'm going to show you how to do a Z-stack. I'm not going to show you how to use a Z-stack in this app that we're making. I'm going to present you simply with the information. You take that and experiment and use it in making this app, so that you get this idea of having all the information you need, but then applying it and having to think independently, problem solve as a coder. And this process of learning, I'm really hoping, is going to help you get into independent coding for yourself when you're doing projects in the future. So hopefully you'll find that useful. But that's enough of me nattering on. Let's get into our video, and then we're going to see all of these different elements. So on the laptop now, let's have a look at what we're going to do and change with the product, okay? With that app that we were building. So looking on here on the simulator that I've got running, I've just created a brand new screen which we've started on. So we haven't opened on the other screen that we had before. On that content view, we're now on something called My Stuff Total. And I've done a view here, a navigation link that should take us to the screen that we'd already built. And then obviously, again, gives us the detail view, which hopefully would have built in. That was number 3. That was the third video, wasn't it? So we need to make, first of all, a few things. First of all, we have to figure out how we can make a gradient, because we've got the gradient coming across here, grey to blue. So how do we do that? We've then got to look at how do we stack it so that this gradient is behind this other stuff. Okay, so we're stacking things on top of each other. How do we do that? We obviously understand about VStacks and stuff here. We understand about navigation links back and forwards. We did that in the third video as well, didn't we? But what we do need to figure out is how did we always started on this view. So how have we changed it so that we start on this one, okay? So there's a few different things we want to look at. We're going to do that by, as always, a Xcode one that we're going to look at. So first of all, let's have a look at Zstacks, okay? If we get the preview up and running. And we're not going to need our sidebar here, are we? Let's make this big so we can see our code. So, sorry, let me just fix that. Right, okay. Here's our code, okay? Now we want to layer things underneath each other. So you probably have guessed already, HStack, we used to do that, didn't we? VStack the same. Well, it's exactly the same as Zstack, okay? Now play around with this again, because obviously, like in video number 1, where we played around with stacks, you can put stacks in stacks in stacks in stacks, and a few other stacks after that. Okay, so stacks just play around with what these are. So we're going to do a Z stack, which means whatever is the first thing is the thing at the bottom. Okay, and the more you put on it, it's almost as if you're placing things on top of it. So just think about it like that. The way that you order them is going to matter. And let's put behind here a circle. Can't see what that is. So a foreground color of dot red. Okay, and you should be able to see the text. See, so the circle is underneath the text. The text is above it. Okay. So, and if we put another circle in here with a foreground color of blue, let's see that. Okay, and frame. If I spell width correctly, of 50. Yeah. Can you see what we got here? So we've got the circle, which is red, stacked underneath the circle, which is then blue, and then above that we've got that. And then we could have even put this all in a H stack. Okay, so you've got H stack on top of the V stack, and you should see, there you go. So we've got H stack on top of the Z stack. Okay, so we're getting there. There's our text with stuff underneath it and above it. Okay, so that's how we're stacking things. So that is Z stack. However, now we want to move on to our next point, which is gradients. Okay, now there's a few different gradients. There's three actually. One actually doesn't seem to have, I don't think I've ever seen used, and I've never used, and is pretty the same as the first one. But we'll look at two of them. Okay, so first of all, we're going to look at linear gradient. Okay, so if you just start typing linear, there we go. And now this gives us options. Okay, as you can see, sorry. So we have, first of all, our colors as our first input. We have a start point and an end point. So this is an array of colors. So put in colors however you want. I'm just going to say green. So dot green, comma, and then because we can make to blue, or I should have said dot blue. Okay. So that's an array of colors. Now we can put as many into this array as we want. And we'll just start with 2 and then we'll add to it to give you the point that you want. If you put dot, it's going to give you all the different options that we have here for this. So I'm just going to do top leading. So it'll be in that corner, top corner. And then we'll go bottom leading. There you go. So you can see that the gradient's going from green to blue. Now, a few things to illustrate with this. First of all, we can add extra colors. So let's do yellow. There you go, yellow. Red, okay. Okay, so you can see what we got going on there. Secondly, these things change, okay? So we've done that as bottom leading. What happens if we change that to bottom trailing? Can you see then it's gone diagonal? The other thing that we're going to notice is at the moment, it is not covering the screen because it's got safety margins on there. Okay, this is like with any view, so we just have to just tell it to ignore those areas, the safe area. So if you just start typing ignore, it will give you that ignore safe area, which will now fill the screen. Okay, so we'll do that one. So that's our linear gradient. So our second gradient is now a radial gradient, which we want to have this one, which has colors, center, start radius. Okay, so similar sort of thing to what you would have already, what we saw already. So this is an array of colors. So let's just go with red to green. Okay, so you can see what that is. Now for the center point, it wants the center. So as you can tell, radial, it's not a change over time. It's actually from a center point going outwards in a circle. Okay, so this point they want the circle. So if you press a full stop, it's going to give you options. Okay, let's just go center. Okay, just for the time being. The radius is the start radius is, this is all going to make sense when you experiment with it a little bit, but the start radius is at the center and the end radius is how far does this go out. So let's say 10, just so we can see where it is, and then we'll go 100. Okay, so can you see that? Now if we made this bigger, and then maybe this one bigger to, let's say, 50, yeah, it's not very clear on the red and the green, is it? I should really change that to something else. Let's change that to blue. Oh, sorry about that. There we go. Okay, right, so you can see it a little bit better. Okay, so it's gone out 50, then it's turned into a gradient till 200. Okay, if you can see that, and then it's solid blue. When it's solid, to like 50, let's do 100. Yeah, can you see how it's doing? Solid red, and then gradient up to that point. Okay, so that's two gradients, and also the ignore safe area. It will cover the screen. Okay, so we've looked at already Zstack. We've looked at being able to do gradients. So that's two simple things out of the way. What we are going to do now is we're going to now look at how to add a new different screen to the start of the app, okay? And it all happens in here. We did visit this briefly on video 3, didn't we? Just to change the navigation, adding a navigation view on there, which we could put on there actually. Just so it doesn't seem confusing and shows that it's possible. So navigation view, we've got a content view, okay? But we don't want to have a content view. Let's do a new file and call it, I don't know, second view. No, let's call it main view, okay? Because it's going to be our first one. Start, yeah. Hello world. So we're going to change this to main view, okay? Now, if we started our app, we get this view as our main view because at the moment, content view, this view is the one that comes up first, but we don't want that. We want this view. Okay, so what we have to do is we'll stop that, and we're going to now change this. Okay, so instead of content view, we don't want the navigation view to come straight up. Our window to present main view. Now we run it, and main view. Okay, so now we are presenting this one as the start screen. Simple, yeah? So that is, I really hope that all makes sense so far. So we've had gradients, we've had main views on the front and Zstacks, okay? So any pretty simple stuff, although the gradients are good fun to play with. So play around with that and add that to the app. The final thing, that I would say now that we look at is renaming our views. And it's actually quite simple. So main view is mentioned in two places right now, isn't it? So we've got it mentioned here, we've got it mentioned here. It could have been a navigation link to main view, all these sort of things. So if we want to change this name, because we decide we don't want to call it this anymore, how do we do it? If we select it, and we want to go to right click on it and then refactor, the option you're going to have is rename, okay? So rename it, and it's going to bring up, as you can see, tutorials app, it's got it already mentioned here, it's got it mentioned here, it's got it mentioned here. This is showing you an option, so it's not highlighted blue, it's highlighted here as an option of what we've found the name here. Do you want to include it? Pressing a tick, oh, now it's in blue. So now it's going to edit it. And we can call this whatever we want. I'm going to call it first view. Enter, and it's changed. So we've named it where we have, but also first view. So it's changed it here as well. And also, as you would have noticed, what we added was the note at the top here. So just the notes of when the view was created. So that's it. That's how to rename the views. So yeah, I really hope that all makes sense. So thank you very much for watching. This was a bit of a shorter video. It was a very busy week for me, so I still try to put out something to add to the series. Plus, as well, gradients are quite fun just to play around with. So to get what you want, just play around with gradients and make sure that you're happy with it. Change around with the new screen using stacks, the Z stacks and also H stacks, V stacks to get the effect that you want. And then obviously add a navigation link that we looked at in the third video. So try that out and see how you get on using those principles that we looked at that in the third video. Next week, we're going to get a bit more involved. I'm planning to look at the camera so we can take pictures of things and add them into the app. So stay tuned for that one. And also, typically, with any YouTube video, if I could just remind you to subscribe for future content. Please like the video if this was helpful. Comment below as well anything you did find helpful, anything that you think would be helpful in the future. Or also reach out to me on being able to show us what you're making. And hopefully with this tutorial that you're able to make something amazing. So thank you again for watching. Stay safe and we'll see you again soon.